Fantasy football podcast called Living the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue and cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zacharyson and Danny Carter, living the stream.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Living the Stream. My name is JJ Zacharyson. We're on quarterback. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Denny Cotta. Denny, what's going on, buddy?
Did you say Strem?
Living the Strem today, yeah.
Strem.
Been doing a lot of work with Avery on reading recently.
Yeah.
And the problem with her, I don't know about your kids, but the problem with her is that she just likes to memorize things instead of really reading the things, you know? And I'm like trying to get across to her. I'm like, you're going to come across words that you don't know because there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And you can't just memorize cat. You know, you can't just memorize these things and think that that's okay. And you can live your life that way.
It is funny though, when they finally get it and they really start reading well, it's almost like off-putting. Like my daughter recently, like you know, I mean, she's 7, so she's been reading for a couple of years, few years, but she really can like breeze through books, you know, for 8-10-year-olds, whatever. And so before bed, she'll read a book with me there, and I'm like, wait, since when can you just like bust out these words that I've never heard you say? Like,
Yeah.
it's weird. It's strange. You're like, no, wait, you're still a baby. You're still a baby.
The thing with Avery is that her vocabulary is really, really good, but she isn't as like, I'm not gonna say she's only 5. She just turned 5, like literally a month ago or whatever, 2 months ago. But she, like, I thought that she would have more interest in like really learning the reading side, but instead she's like cocky about her ability to memorize all of these words. And I'm like, cool, awesome. Speaking of Avery, my family and I, we went with friends too. We had a whole entire row in the arena for Disney on Ice. Have you been to Disney on Ice before?
Maybe in like the early 90s.
Okay, so you went like a really long time ago.
Yeah.
You haven't been as an adult. Right?
I've not. No.
You weren't an adult. You are old, as we know, but you weren't an adult in the early 90s.
No, right. That's correct. During the first Clinton administration, I was not an adult.
I went last year, before CJ was even born, right? And before we knew that CJ would be part of our family. And so last year we didn't have a baby with us. This year we had, you know, the 9-month-old CJ with us, and remember when Drew Brees' kid, when he won the Super Bowl and Drew Brees had the kid with the headphones on? That was CJ at Disney on Ice this past week. It's very adorable. It's adorable.
Really loud, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then you put those on and like you can't really hear much, but he didn't really care. Like whenever I took him off, he was still fine and cool and very like mesmerized by it. But man, that thing, Disney on Ice, is something else. It's something else. And I had the thought, first off, I have no idea if the people who do Disney on Ice are like where do you think they came from in terms of
well, not Florida.
In terms of what trajectory career wise did like were they just really, really good figure skaters throughout like high school and into college, and then this is like, because like how many paths can you go down if you're a figure skater? And I don't mean that as like part of this is ignorance for sure, but I don't mean that from the perspective of like abolish figure skaters. I mean this from the perspective of like, I'm just genuinely curious because there can't be that many opportunities for figure skaters to do that for a living, but maybe people think the exact same thing with fantasy football analysts.
Well, I mean, none of us trained to be fantasy football analysts. So
True.
That is one thing. Yeah, no, I where did they come from? Yeah, hockey, perhaps, you know, some dejected hockey folks.
Yes. So I was then thinking, and I texted a friend who does writing in the Hollywood area, and you know has done a lot of work on TV shows and movies and stuff. And I texted an idea And anyone listening to this, create this, because I'm going to be a fantasy football analyst my entire life, and I am not going to ever be a Hollywood screenwriter. But how good of an idea is it? Like give me a scale from 1 to 10 on this idea. And anyone listening, you guys can shoot me a message and give me the truth. Okay. Mockumentary style series, right? So Office like Parks and Rec like, but instead of those environments, it's a traveling ice skating group, right? That does like a Disney on Ice type. The characters that you could come up with,
Oh yeah,
out of that group would be. You could have a super flamboyant character. You could have one who's like the hockey guy who's only doing this because sort of like the Jim in The Office, like just kind of miserable, but is only doing it because he's got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. How okay, 0 to 10. And plus any good idea you can explain in like 2 sentences. And I just did that. So 0 to 10, how good of a TV show idea is this?
I'm going to go with the 7. And honestly, I can pitch it to NBC Universal.
Right. That's right. I'm talking to someone who works for NBC right now. Yeah. Look, I think that it could be a hit. I really think it could be a hit.
So Eric Belair, longtime listener of the show, friend of the show, Eric Belair says we have to watch Blades of Glory to see this story play out. And,
okay, look, but have you seen Blades of Glory? I watched it like
long time ago.
Yeah, right. It's one of those movies that's I mean, this might be hot takey, but it's totally forgettable. It's a totally forgettable movie.
Super forgettable. Oh my God.
Like it's just not very. It wasn't very good. It was just too much.
It was just a Will Ferrell movie.
Right. It's a standard Will Ferrell movie. Correct. And maybe are we saying that Will Ferrell? I think Will Ferrell as a human and as like a character on like in the world is funny. But I actually think Will Ferrell in a lot of not all, but in a lot of movies and like the movies that he's done, this is close to my Adam Sandler take, but I'm going to say overrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he back then we're talking about like 2005 to 10. He was cashing in as much as possible with a bunch of movies that were fun to see maybe once, but were not all time great movies. Like he made Old School, which is I think an all-time comedy.
Yeah. Like Old School is good. Yes. Old School. But, like no one, because people listening to this right now are probably screaming in their car that I said that when I'm not putting Old School in that bucket. But there are some bad. What was the Semi-Pro movie? Remember that one?
Oh my gosh.
Like terrible. That movie was horrible. And so Blades of Glory, but then like Step Brothers. Step Brothers is another like one of the greatest movies of all time.
Step Brothers. For some reason I don't want to like that movie,
but it's good.
It's good. It made me laugh. It made me laugh a lot. So, what can I do? What can I do about that?
It's a great movie. But yeah, look, I'm not, the thing is Blades of Glory takes this idea way too over the top. I'm not an over the top humor guy. I'm more realistic, real world humor guy. And that's what the mockumentary stuff is all about. And I think that's why it would be a fun take on that.
One mockumentary type. Well, no, actually, it's not a mockumentary. Never mind. But I was going to say my son's been watching the Superstore on NBC.
Oh, is that isn't that kind of mockumentary?
It's sort of. I mean, but they don't do like the individual interviews, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but it's basically about Walmart, like Walmart workers. But let me tell you. That show is woke as a joke. You better watch out, folks. That show, it's scarily woke.
Is it like the movie Employee of the Month during Dane Cook's peak?
I don't remember that.
Oh, it was Dane Cook, Jessica Simpson, and Dak Shepard, I think, was in it. And it was about like a group of people who worked at like a Costco-esque place.
Oh, okay. That does ring a bell. By the way, can we talk about Dane Cook being the most famous person in the world for like 6 months?
He was. I mean, he married someone who's like 20 years younger than him that they started dating when she was apparently 18, like right away. Yeah. So he's controversial right now because of that. But yeah, we can look, Dane Cook, when I was in high school, college. Was the biggest thing on planet Earth.
I mean, not just in comedy, but like in entertainment.
Yes. Yeah. He was massive. He was huge. Yeah.
He would sell out Madison Square Garden. I watched like the HBO special with my friends. They're like, "Oh God, we got to get together and watch the Dane Cook special." Why did
Yeah.
we laugh at that? Why did we think
all,
that was funny?
all he did was tell stories. That's all he
Hmm.
did. David in chat says, "Holy cow, Dane is 51, his wife is 24." Yeah, it's a look. We're not going to get into that side of things. We're talking
Ugh.
nostalgia here because that's what we do on this podcast. Yeah, I mean, all he did was tell stories, and the way that he told them
Mm.
was good, but he was not actually. When you take a step back, there wasn't, and this is why like the comedians don't like Dane Cook because of this, because he didn't actually like create jokes and like go down that. He was literally just storytelling whenever he would go in front of these crowds.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't tell you if you weren't around for it, it's hard to describe because very few comedians reach that level, that like Eddie Murphy circa 1986 level.
Mhm.
And Dane Cook achieved that for about 25 minutes in the
He
early
did it.
2000s.
He did, and he did movies. Like he was out there, and then he just disappeared. I think there was some stuff like I saw one story like his brother was his manager, stepbrother, something like half brother, and his brother like was stealing millions and millions of dollars from him and
Oh
went to
yeah.
jail. And like, look, it hasn't been like the easiest path post all of that happening. I have no idea if Dane Cook's a good guy or not, but so like there's been like some crazy stuff that's happened post Dane Cook being what he was, but like you would go to parties and people would be reciting Dane Cook skits. Like they would be reciting his jokes and like the stories that he told and stuff like that. Like I remember the one story he told about the cement truck with like having cushions in this thing that spun and like the people in the back having a party in it and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not. And then do you remember when he did the car alarm joke where he made it? He talked about first off how he hates when people pull, which is kind of funny. He hates when people pull into his driveway and then have to turn around, by after and like they use his driveway.
Uh-huh.
And then he used the car alarm, like the same one that goes like, and he put lyrics to it, and that was like one of his big things that he had done. But he wasn't that funny. And it's crazy that he got as big as he did.
Yeah, I mean, we have a listener here, viewer named Dylan, says he was a committed storyteller, and that's true. That is absolutely the case. Looking up, I haven't seen a picture of Dane Cook in a long time, and buddy, that guy has had some work, a little work done. Oof.
Yeah.
Boy.
And also I'm seeing Billum in the chat saying, or Billiam. Is it Billum or Billiam?
Billiam.
Like Billiam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Says so the beginning of the alarm joke, the car alarm joke is, "Hello, I'm a car, gasoline make," and then he just like gets into like what the lyrics would be. Anyway, let's stop talking about Dane Cook. This has gotten way out. We went from a really good TV show idea to talking about a guy who hasn't been relevant in 15 years.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah. Let's recap what happened last week. We had CJ Stroud as our top streamer. Two of our streamers didn't go because we had Jimmy G and Jameis Winston. They didn't even play. CJ Stroud was our top streamer because we didn't really like Kenny Pickett that much. Pickett scored 3.5 points. CJ Stroud scores 22 points. He came through. He's been awesome. Tight end, Gerald Everett, 2.9. Luke Musgrave, concussed. Adam Troutman, again, was a very deep play.
0.
Did nothing again. He was out there getting cardio once again. Jake Ferguson, 14.7. So Ferg, by the way, Turd has officially graduated.
Yes.
He is no longer a streamer. Defense. Let's talk about defense because Denver, Denny, was getting lit up by Chicago to start that game. And I think it's Impress Suave who made the image a while ago of me. It's like a live stream of me, and he put like clown makeup and stuff on it. So
yeah.
I had that image and I posted it and I said, when you thought the Denver defense was a good streaming option this week, and everyone just started, people were, not everyone, but people were like laying in on me being like, oh, you mean the team that gave up 70 points last week and blah, 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 blah. And I wanted nothing more than last week, just from a process standpoint and to show people that like, this is how you stream defense. It's so matchup based. I just wanted Denver to just do really well in fantasy. And so all this crap was coming in. I was down bad. And then all of a sudden everything
Scored
worked
touchdown.
out. They scored a touchdown. They intercept Justin Fields. They still had like 4 or 5 sacks. They ended up scoring 13 fantasy points. They were a defense 1 this past week. Denver wins out. Cincinnati, they were scored 5 points. Even though they got blown out. I mean, it was clearly not a
horrible script.
Yeah, right. Bad script and all. They still scored 5 points. The real winner, though, Denny, the real winner, the Seattle Mother Seahawks.
I hope you all streamed them because wow.
My goodness. I think I dropped them for like the Charger or like the Bengals or something in the LTS Listener League. My LTS Listener League team is just like I've been competitive in that league pretty much every year. This year it's not happening. If anyone in that league wants Bijan Robinson, I will trade him away just to get some change.
It's still early. You're still gonna finish better than me. Just know that.
No, it won't happen. But Seattle scores 30 fantasy points, Denny. 30 fantasy points.
Let's go.
And you could have picked them off the freaking waiver wire.
Carl says sack-based ceiling, and that's what we had, a sack-based ceiling.
That was just like, I mean, what a disaster the Giants offense was.
I honestly I am wondering about the long-term prospects for my Brian Daboll.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good example of just like team, getting W's off of a pretty easy schedule last year. And like it's sort of fraudulent like the Vikings last season. And now you see the flip side with regression. This is just what generally happens, year over year with these teams. And I think it's getting a little frightening for the Giants right now.
Well, one day in my lifetime, I hope to see a team tell a mid-tier quarterback like Daniel Jones, say, look, no, we're not extending you. Like we're not, you're somebody else's problem. We're going to wait. We're not going to fall into this trap. We're not going to put ourselves in quarterback purgatory for the next 5 years. We're not doing it, but they have, and now they're stuck.
What team here? Let me ask you this question. What team in the NFL do you think is most stuck in not quarterback purgatory, but just purgatory as a franchise? They are not going to be competitive for the next 5 years, competitive enough to win a Super Bowl, but they're also not going to be a top 10. They're not going to have a consistent top 10 pick in the NFL draft.
So not just bad, because I was going to say Carolina, but
yeah. I'm not saying like, I just mean like this team is going to have the 14th pick in the draft every year for the next like decade. Who is that team?
That's a good question. Oh man, who would that be? That would be.
I have my pick.
That would be the Commanders. Jags?
Commanders is an okay pick. My pick is Pittsburgh.
Okay. Oh yeah.
The Steelers are going to win 8 or 9 games every year for the next 5 seasons.
They have committed. Mike Tomlin has committed to mediocrity.
Yeah, right. It's like people like Dylan says the Chargers in here. Rich agrees with me with the Steelers. We had like the Raiders or like the Browns, but like some of those teams that I just named, like the Chargers, they have a high upside quarterback that like you're gonna run into some fortune and a decent season here and there.
I think so.
The Steelers have a bottom tiered quarterback. They have a horrible offensive line, but they're like, as much as people want to say fire Tomlin, whatever. An average head coach coaching this team would win 4 games, probably 4 or 5 games.
Right. Tomlin does well to get to 7 or 8.
Yeah. Right. Like I like if Tomlin got fired, because Pittsburgh's very upset right now with obviously Matt Canada, and Matt Canada should lose his job. But Matt Canada's worse at his job than we are at ours at this podcast. Like
somehow it didn't seem possible.
It didn't all seem possible, but Matt Canada is the living the stream equivalent of offensive coordinating.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough.
But yeah, if Mike Tomlin lost his job tomorrow, 15 teams would be lining up to get him.
That's right. That's right. I mean, look, they just so committed to an old school approach, like Steelers football. That there's no upside to that sort of approach, and I think that we're seeing that now. I didn't think there could be any scenario where Tomlin would be on the hot seat, but I'm kind of seeing it a little bit here. And by the way, remember Tomlin said we have to make changes after Sunday's loss. We're going to make changes. You know what the change was, JJ?
Denzel Mims.
No. The change was they're going to practice with pads on Wednesday. That's the change.
Oh, is that what it was?
I'm not kidding.
Well, I was saying Denzel Mims because they signed him to the
Right,
practice
right,
squad today. Yeah.
right. But I mean, what? That's it? I mean, Matt Canada's running the most predictable, stale offense in recent history, and the change you're going to make is we're going to crack the pads on Wednesdays.
Yeah, look, man, we get a question about fandom today on the show that we'll get to, but the Steelers in the 2010s even, right? Like peak Ben Roethlisberger in 2015 when they had like AB and Le'Veon Bell and Emmanuel Sanders was in there in and out, and then like Mike Wallace was in there in and out. Those teams could have easily won the Super Bowl. Like they could have won, but they could never beat New England. The way they defended New England, they just played zone against them, and Tom Brady just pick them apart every single game, every single time. And so that was the biggest mistake of the Tomlin era, is they never adjusted well enough for New England. And then you had that one game. Remember the Jesse James game when he scored the touchdown it was like week 15, scored the touchdown. It was like the Des Bryant thing.
Yes.
The whole world wanted Pittsburgh to win that game because no one liked New England at the time.
I desperately wanted them to.
Yeah. And so that was, and then I believe that same season they went to New England and lost in the playoffs. And it was just New England over and over and over again. And that's what people are going to remember that whole franchise in that era for, is
a lot of
to the Patriots.
Missed opportunities there. But I do. Yeah. I mean, I think that they're stuck because, they don't have a quarterback, obviously. They're stuck in this mindset that, Najee Harris is going to be like the centerpiece of their offense. Right. Like, what is this thinking, this magical thinking that like old school football is going to win the day? You have teams out there innovating like never before, and you're just stuck in neutral. It's a bad spot. By the way, I do enjoy the tough guys on TV, man. They love when the Dolphins lose now. I was just talking about innovation and whatnot. When Dolphins lose, they're like, "Where's your analytics god now, Mike McDaniel?" Yeah. And it's like, right. When Bill Walsh was innovating in the NFL, the 49ers didn't lose a game for 4 years in a row. We all know that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, like, it's not like the Bills, who they lost to this week, is not an innovative franchise right now in the way that they're handling that offense. Rich actually said in chat, he said the same thing I was saying. Steelers sitting in soft zone for the entire Brady Belichick tenure should have landed him in solitary confinement. It's true. I mean, not to that degree, obviously, but the idea is true. I mean, it's crazy that the Steelers just wasted prime years from one of the better quarterbacks of all time. It's like, people always remember like the Roethlisberger. I know I'm ranting a little bit. People always remember the Roethlisberger towards the end of his career, but they forget the crazy high upside passing offenses that the Steelers had. And it was awesome. It was great for fantasy. It was great to watch. It was really fun to watch. And they just wasted it completely.
They did.
It's nuts.
Nevertheless,
let's get into week number 5. I have 2 quarterbacks and you have 1. So I will kick things off. I'm going to go with Zach Wilson to kick things off, just to make everyone throw up before we really get going here. Look, Wilson looked competent in week 4, against the Chiefs. I sent that tweet out. I said, any Taylor Swift fan who doesn't know anything about football and is just watching because of Taylor Swift thinks that Zach Wilson is better than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. You're right. I didn't see that one.
I sent it and I was like, this could be a good. I think I got like 3,500 likes or something like that. Like, it was a decent one. It did well.
Good numbers.
Elon will give me about $3 for it.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So Zach Wilson though gets Denver this week. Everyone against Denver has looked competent. You have 4 top 15 performances to start the year against the Denver defense. But let me just read you. You ready for this? I'm going to read you some stats and where they rank in different statistics so far this year. Denver's defense, first in touchdowns allowed, 29th in sack rate, 23rd in pressure rate, 5th in air yards per attempt allowed, 31st in passing EPA per dropback allowed, 30th in rushing yards over expected allowed. I mean, they're horrible. They're absolutely atrocious.
Yeah,
Justin Fields, who looked like a CFL quarterback through the first 3 weeks of the season, looked like a stud until maybe the last 10 minutes of that game.
Wait, he didn't look like a pro-ready quarterback for the past 2 years. Okay? I mean, at no point.
Let
Did
me
he
just
look-
like just to give you some context about Justin Fields against Denver to show you how bad Denver is. Fields scored like 28 fantasy points this past week, right? He had fewer than 5 rush attempts in that game. He wasn't really doing it with his legs. I mean, he had some rushing yards and stuff, but it wasn't like he went bonkers on the ground. That was the first time in his career where he's had 5 or fewer rush attempts and he scored more than 15 fantasy points.
Wow.
He scored 28. He did all
Hmm.
that with his arm because
Yeah, I
they're
don't know.
that bad defensively.
It was. By the way, Zach Wilson being like kind of okay is going to do more to rattle my worldview than anything else in my life. Like my dad could like call me and be like, "Hey, I was thinking more about it, and I think taxes are actually good and they should be raised."
Yeah.
Like I think that would not rattle my worldview like Zach Wilson being good at quarterback. So this really can't happen for me. But I do
Is it
understand.
for you because of where you stood with Zach Wilson and the amount of shit you talked about Zach Wilson?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, I can't deal with it because of the receipts online. And secondly, I was just so sure. But you know what it looked like to me, JJ? It looked like a guy who has had the yips for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And on Sunday night against Kansas City, he didn't have the yips. He actually
Right.
looked somewhat confident. And that rattles me to the core because it's like, wait a second. It was just the yips. It was just a
Yeah.
case of a guy not being able to throw the ball to first base. That's
Yeah.
it.
See, here's the thing. I'm on the opposite side of this, and I want Zach. I sent the tweet like Zach Wilson is other than you, is everyone's like little brother right now. We went from hating this guy, wishing that he wasn't born, as a sibling, right? And to all of a sudden you've grown and you've seen the little brother struggle a little bit, and you're just like, I just want you to pull through. I just want you to do well.
Yeah. Look, I saw him after the game said, "It's my fault, bro. I lost the game, whatever." And I did feel for him in that moment. So I will say that much.
It's not his fault that he got drafted second overall.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not his fault.
It doesn't make sense. What he was tearing apart Arizona Tech or whatever in college. So let's I don't get it. Why would you draft anybody from the West Coast? Is my thing. No, nobody's
Right.
serious. With
Right.
football.
Forget about that guy playing for the Trojans right now. Just ignore that.
That's a red flag for me. Being from the West Coast, there's no serious football over there.
All right, Denny, why don't you get to your quarterback?
Yeah, Sam Howell. I mean, look, he plays the Bears, so I mean, it's a great spot. Bears 31st in, or I should say, they've given up the second most EPA per drop back. Success rate is kind of in the middle of the pack. Sam Howell's not giving you anything with his legs, unfortunately. No design rushes. I think after week 1, so we're not getting that. But I think he's a very, very safe floor option for a Washington offense that was a little bit surprising here. Has the 4th highest pass rate over expected through week 4. So they're establishing the pass, folks, and we like that very much. Nothing downfield, but that's okay. You got to play any breathing, living quarterback against Chicago, and that's what we have here.
I'm going to go. I like all 3 of the options that we have this week at quarterback, honestly. Like, I think Zach Wilson's not like a horrific option. I mean, from the standpoint of like getting 15 fantasy points. Sam Howell, I think, is a good play against Chicago. What about Josh Dobbs, Denny? We need to have a conversation about Josh Dobbs.
I feel like we should have mentioned him last week, honestly.
He is, and he's so easy to root for too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, he's just such a fun player. But over his last 3 games, 25, 17, and 23 fantasy points. 2 of those games came against Dallas and San Francisco. He scored 17 and 23 fantasy points against Dallas and San Francisco. I was actually looking at my adjusted fantasy points allowed numbers. And I do this for defenses, right? So I can say this is the 8th most advantageous matchup for a defense, or this is the 5th most, or it's one of the worst. The bottom 2 teams in terms of not being good matchups for fantasy defenses. One of them is Arizona, and the other one is Houston.
Really?
How crazy is that?
Huh?
Like, it's insane. It's crazy. And
Wow.
the Arizona thing is very clear and obvious, is that they did not play poorly because it's adjusting for strength of opponent. They did not play poorly against San Francisco and Dallas. And now You look at Dobbs over the last 3 weeks, he's run the ball 3, 6, and 12 times. He's averaged 48 rushing yards per game. That's an extra touchdown plus per game, with his legs. And then obviously that's not even accounting for rushing touchdowns. Cincinnati's defense ranks first in air yards per attempt allowed this year. So there's some big play potential. They're not really getting the quarterback either. They're 26th in pressure rate. So Cincinnati, the 8th best matchup in terms of adjusted points allowed to quarterbacks. Josh Dobbs is a fairly legit option this week, especially because there's bye weeks.
Can I ask, what have the Bengals done to be 3-point road favorites here?
I thought the same thing. You talk about like two teams really going in the opposite
directions. I mean, Arizona has that dog. I mean, I don't know. Jonathan Gannon,
right?
Yeah, Gannon put that dog in those guys. Dobbs is playing out of his mind. Joe Burrow, I was looking at some stats actually for the Roto World Football Show. Joe Burrow, when facing a blitz this year, and the Cardinals are going to blitz him a lot, he's averaging 4.8 yards per attempt. Just to give you an idea of how much that's dropped. Last year it was 8.6, though the year before that was 10.4. So yeah, he's a disaster right now, Burrow.
No T. Higgins for them this week either, probably.
Man, oh man. I mean, I was gonna say, the Cardinals will beat them, but I feel like that's a given. They're gonna win.
It's crazy. I mean, Burrow right now, the only quarterback I think that has a lower ADOT than Burrow is Dak Prescott, which is also stupid and annoying. But
that is annoying. God,
obviously there's something going on with Burrow, and that something probably is the calf strain. Like that's likely playing into this to some degree, but they are so bad offensively. They scored 3 offensive touchdowns through 4 games. It's the lowest in the NFL. There's something more going on than just, he's a little bit banged up.
I worry with Dobbs. We have a viewer here, David, saying, who do we rank above, Hal, Wilson, or Dobbs? My one issue with Dobbs is that the Cardinals don't want to be pass first or pass heavy. Like right. The Cardinals are 31st in pass rate over expected. Only the Falcons are below them. So if they get a lead here, it's Jover for Dobbs' fantasy day.
Yeah. Joanna's saying Burrow and the Bengals will surprisingly destroy the Cardinals and get back on track, which is totally possible. I mean, we should be open-minded about things changing in the NFL immediately because it happens every single week. But I do think on paper, if we were to rank these guys, I would have them Hal, Dobbs, Wilson. What about you?
I think the Cardinals pretty much end Cincinnati season this year.
Wow.
Okay. Week. Like it's. I mean, I'm talking like they're going to just have to rest Burrow for a while. Jamar Chase will throw a tantrum. It's going to be ugly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the tight end position. Denny, why don't you kick things off?
I have Jonnu Smith because, guys, Jonnu Smith is operating as the tight end 1 in Atlanta, and I take no pleasure in saying that as someone who took a lot of Kyle Pitts in best ball. Turns out I should have been taking Jonnu Smith 25 rounds later. Since Jonnu has been active week 2, 3, and 4. So Pitts has run 28 more routes, but Jonnu has one more target than Pitts over that span. Jonnu Smith is leading the Falcons with a 24% target per route run rate. Pitts is at 17%. Jonnu Smith even has more first read targets than Kyle Pitts. That is just stunning. So
that's sadness.
Now I will say this: the Falcons target the tight end position at the highest rate in the league, 36%. So maybe there's a universe where both Pitts and Smith can get there together. I don't know. But Jonnu is clearly in play.
Part of the problem is that they look, I think Kyle Pitts is very, very good. I have him in the LTS listener league. It was actually my only read. I have him in some best ball leagues and stuff, but I was just drafting Drake London instead most of the time, which was also not a good idea. But Kyle Pitts, my one share is in the LTS listener league, and that's not been a fun experience at all. But the thing with Pitts that I think is a huge problem and that no one wants to have the conversation about is, I mean, they'll have the conversation, but no one can just admit that he might not be as good as they thought that he might be. And I mean that from the perspective of they line him out wide, and they have this season on like 30% of his routes. and that's 15% for Jonnu Smith. So you get double the amount of going out wide for Kyle, and that's depending on source. That's according to PFF. I think it's even a greater disparity when you're looking at like next gen stats or something like that. So I think that we need to have the conversation that maybe Kyle Pitts would dominate in a traditional tight end role, but they're not using him in a traditional tight end role. And then you add on top, okay, he has a 60% catchable target rate. That's according to Fantasy Life. You know, Jonnu Smith is at 80%. So there's been a little bit of fortune on Kyle Pitt or on Jonnu Smith's end there. But I do think that at the end of the day, you know, he's banged up too. Kyle Pitts is hurt and he entered the season hurt. So we have to, you know, at least like recognize that. But I do think that Kyle Pitts, it's okay to say he hasn't lived up to the hype in terms of being a wide receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he can live up to the hype if they were to use him in a Mark Andrews type role, let's say.
We have to stop pretending that tight ends can be receivers. This thing, the Giants were like, hey, we got our wide receiver 1 and Darren Waller. I'm sorry, Giants. Your guy's a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. Okay. Like you can't just say he's a receiver. He's not a receiver. He's a tight end. So,
right. Yeah. Right. Unless they're literal, the greatest of all time players.
And I mean, it's the same thing. We're going to split this running back out wide. Oh, so he can be shut down by the other team's 4th cornerback. Like,
right.
Come on. Right. Well, like,
yeah.
don't be stubborn about this. Like Kyle Pitts is not a wide receiver. I take no pleasure in saying this, but he's not. And so he's running a bunch of meaningless routes on the outs on the perimeter. Right. So, and I think you're right. If he were used as, I don't know, a tight end, it could work.
Yeah. Right now, according to PFF, you have among relevant tight ends. This is just to show you how good Sam Laporta has been. But among the most relevant tight ends, Laporta actually ranks first in out wide snaps this season. Logan Thomas is next, and then Kyle Pitts is third. And then everyone will say, well, what about Travis Kelce? Travis Kelce's pretty significantly lower. He's at 23% compared to Kyle Pitts at 30% this season being lined up out wide. I mean, you're also talking about like one of the greatest, if not the greatest play caller and scheme creator of all time in Andy Reid,
right,
and understanding how to really use the tight end position versus Arthur Smith, who's this power run type head coach, right?
God,
so
that offense, man.
Yeah. Anyway, so you have Jonnu Smith as one. I'm going to actually talk about Logan Thomas, who I just mentioned. He's kind of intriguing because Chicago sucks against everything defensively. They're the 9th best opponent for tight ends and adjusted fantasy points allowed. He's only seen target shares in his last 2 of 9% and 8%, but last week he had a 76% route participation rate. So he was, he's on the field running a lot of routes, good matchup. Obviously he's not going to be first in the pecking order in terms of seeing looks, but I think, at a weak position, you could probably do a little bit worse than target a tight end against a horrible defense in a game where the offense could score a decent amount of points.
I zoned out for a second. Did you mention their implied total? Because it's crazy.
What is their implied total right now?
25.5. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, it's another reason to go after him.
Talking about Washington, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, guys, look. I have Hayden Hurst, and this, this is a desperation. This is an Adam Troutman type situation. As long as Bryce Young is under center for Carolina, we're talking about a guy who's caught 2 of 6 targets over the past 2 weeks for 18 yards. But he's, what he's doing? He's getting a lot of cardio. He's out there on a lot of routes, and the Panthers will probably be playing from behind pretty significantly here. So let's go with it. Let's go with Hurst if you are in a 16-team league.
Yeah. Good matchup against Detroit. Detroit's been bad, against tight ends for like 2 years now. But yeah, he's the worst of them all. I think probably the safest that we're talking about today is Zach Ertz.
Yes.
He's still leads the NFL with a 24.8% target share at tight end. Second best matchup for tight ends this week in Cincinnati and adjusted fantasy points allowed. They've allowed a tight end 1 performance each week this year. Last week it was Josh Wiley to Tennessee. That's how you say it, right? WHYLE, Wiley, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wiley? And so it wasn't even Chigakonkwo who did it, but they've given up a top 12 performance now, a tight end 1 performance each week this year. So Zach Ertz is your top tight end streamer. Let's move on to defense, Danny. You have 2, I have 1. Get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all in on the Commanders apparently because we have Logan Thomas, we have Sam Howell, and now we have the Washington defense against a Chicago offense that bleeds fantasy points to opposing defenses because, folks, we have a sack based floor. You know, that's our audio drop for this this week. The Commanders are putting pressure on the quarterback at a decent rate, just slightly above average, and you know what? Justin Fields takes a lot of sacks. Did you know about this stat? I feel like Jay Leno. You ever hear about this stat? Called sack rate over expected.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing.
Doesn't like Eric Eager and them like work with that a little bit because they did a big study a few years ago, basically saying that quarterbacks are the problem in terms of taking sacks as opposed to the offensive line.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Thank you for, because I was gonna try to explain it for about 15 minutes and it was not going to be that concise. So it's like Sam Howell is up there because he holds the ball a lot, and Justin Fields is second, has the second worst sack rate over expected. So we can get some sacks, maybe some turnovers for the Washington defense.
Another defense that you can go after is Detroit. Carolina's bottom 10 in pressure rate allowed, or I guess top 10 in pressure rate allowed. It's one of the hardest things to talk through whenever you're saying allowed, because it is the reverse, right? They're bad at protecting their quarterback, right? At a top 10 rate, bad.
Yeah.
Detroit is top 10 in pressure rate. They've been getting to the quarterback. Detroit's a big favorite, 8.5 points. Carolina's been the 8th best matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed this year. The process. We got one more defense.
Yeah, we have the Green Bay defense against the Raiders. Raiders getting gouged in fantasy points allowed to defenses. I had the number here, and I actually don't have it anymore. We're looking very strongly into that, folks. Raiders 7th most points allowed to opposing fantasy defenses this season. We're not sure if Jimmy Garoppolo will be back. But the offensive line for Vegas is really struggling. I think they should have their hands full with the Green Bay front seven. And also, look, I think whoever plays the Raiders going forward is going to have a lot of game script on their side, which means the Raiders are going to be in obvious pass-first situations. That's not such a bad thing if you're playing Aiden O'Connell and or Jimmy Garoppolo.
So to recap, we have Detroit, Washington, and Green Bay. At tight end, we have Jonnu Smith, Logan Thomas, Hayden Hurst, Zach Ertz. Remember, Turd Ferguson has graduated, not retired. Josh Dobbs, Zach Wilson, and Sam Howell. CJ Stroud is also graduated, not retired. Yeah. So good for us for talking them up early on.
And this is the tough thing about this show. I saw I forget which platform it was, either the Facebook page or X or somewhere, Patreon, somewhere where someone was like, streaming stinks this year, but like if you got Stroud, you don't have to stream. So
right. I don't think streaming's been that bad this year. Like tight end, there's been the rookies, Musgrave's been okay enough, or at least his peripherals look good. Kincaid now, his peripherals look better. And obviously Sam Laporta has been a monster. And then, Jake Ferguson's been good. You get quarterback, you have CJ Stroud. There's others that I'm just not thinking of right now, probably. But like, it hasn't been that bad. Like Brock Purdy, if you're able to get him off waivers, he's been good. I mean, it's really, I don't think it's been that bad streaming this year.
I don't think
compared to most years. Our numbers might not look amazing at the end of the year, but if you look at what we did week 1 and week 2 and some of the players that we recommended, if we were able to ride them out, we might be able to, and platoon them. That's the other thing with streaming too. Oftentimes, if I find someone like a CJ Stroud, if my roster is deep enough, I'm fine with rostering 2 quarterbacks and still playing by matchup. Like I don't think you need to just go with him and only him. You can still kind of do the streaming thing, but with more of a platoon.
Yep.
I actually have a big research project I want to do this offseason on low end QB1s and platooning them in your draft and seeing if that's the way that you can match elite production.
Cool. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. You big nerd.
I'm a huge nerd. All right. Twitter questions. First one is from @JayTheWolf. This is from last week. It says, after some video forensic analysis, I've concluded that the infamous Meat Mountain Arby's location has been shut down. What do Denny and his attorneys have to say for themselves?
Yeah, well, we're taking this straight to the Supreme Court. We're looking for a 6-3 ruling to reinstate the Arby's there in Rockville, on Rockville Pike. But no, it's gone. It's closed. I think it actually closed shortly after I did the Meat Mountain stream. Perhaps just from reputational damage, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So this next question is from Matthew Pop, 1982. So he's probably like an elder millennial like you, I would assume. It says, still waiting on your analysis on the poop plane ride from Atlanta to Barcelona. Come on, guys. Have you heard about this? Do you know about
No.
this? This was a couple weeks ago now, maybe even a few weeks ago. But there was a plane that it was going from Atlanta to Barcelona that had to have an emergency landing because someone had such bad diarrhea on the plane.
No.
And like it was all over the aisles, like it was everywhere.
Oh no.
It was a disaster. I believe that's what this is referring to.
Oh my God, that is horrific. So
Yeah,
wait. It had to land somewhere in the continental US?
I'm
rather
assuming,
than-
yeah, probably like Kansas or something. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Wait,
Although it doesn't make much sense if they're going to Barcelona, they wouldn't be going that direction.
right. I mean, where are you landing?
I think there was an emergency landing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe they had to just like wait it out. But I'm pretty sure there was an emergency landing somewhere.
That poor person.
Someone can look it up while
Man.
we're doing this.
I mean, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah,
I feel like
that is.
you're gonna need like years of therapy to get over that. Wow.
Yeah, it's rough. It's
I
very
mean, yeah,
rough.
Eric
So-
Belair has a point. No airport Panda Express before boarding.
That's right. That's right. And Matt says had to go back to Atlanta, I think. So I think that they just did a little UE and went back to Atlanta because someone took a giant S all over the P. It's just not what you look for. Next question at John Football Seed. True TV has chosen you two as new host of Impractical Jokers. Who else from the fantasy football world do you choose as co-host? Hopefully Denny has seen the show. Have you seen Impractical Jokers?
No,
Denny, how have you not seen Impractical Jokers?
I don't know, man.
Okay, so
Well,
it's very easy. It's literally a practical joke show. 4 guys who are high school friends started the show. They go around New York City and they put themselves in these situations where they have earpieces in and they have to do whatever the guys are telling them to do.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so they go in and they have, if they don't do it, then they lose, and there's a punishment at the end for the loser. Like they have to do some really like insane, like sort of punishment. But
right.
I mean, the obvious answer to this is Pete Overzet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's easy.
That I can't even like he's like the 101 of anything improv or joke related.
Pete does improv at an unbelievable level. Like when we used to do sketches together, he would tell me, hold on a second. He would like get his like game face on, and then he would like get into this character in a way that I couldn't, because I don't have any improv background or any acting background. But I mean, it would obviously it would carry the sketch completely. Yes. He would completely carry it, but it was always so impressive because he could stay in that character and then just completely come out of it after the sketch. He'd be like, hey, that was good, right? Yeah. I mean, and it was so impressive. I honestly do mean that. I'm not just saying that because Pete's my friend. Like it was very fun to watch.
One of my best friends has done improv stuff in the past too, and it's just like it's just like if you're not around it, it's just a different level of thinking with being off the cuff and being able to do stuff like that. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Who else would we choose? We have to.
So Eric in chat right now is saying that he would want to see Levitan on that, which is actually really funny, just because think about Levitan's personality doing a show like that would be hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
I kind of think nothing against Adam, because I like Adam obviously, but Silva would be
good too.
I mean, it would be good because he would have none of it. He would not put up with any of the jokes and stuff. And the instant that he felt uncomfortable, he would just say, "No, I'm not doing this." No. We're not doing this anymore.
And then they say, "Okay, you lose," and he's like, "No, I'm not doing that either." And then
yes,
and then he wouldn't have to do it.
I actually think that would be funny. It would be funny, in like an inside jokey way. But I guess Levitan would be good. Yeah, let's go with this.
All right, next question is from @mana_dork. Thoughts on the Minnesota Twins ending or extending their 18 playoff game losing streak today? They haven't won a postseason game since the first G.W. Bush administration. If a baseball game is roughly 50-50 win-loss, that's a 0.0, and there's a lot of zeros, 3815% outcome. So I wanted to keep this because When's the last time you watched a baseball game?
I actually, JJ, have been watching my Orioles over the past month or so.
Oh, right. That's right, because they're good.
I've been ramping up, folks, for the postseason. We're the number 1 seed. Sorry if you're triggered.
Have you watched full games though, or is it
No.
a fifth inning and later?
No,
situation?
Absolutely not full games. I'll watch the last 2 or 3 innings.
Right. I've lost so much interest in baseball. Like I am 100% a bandwagon Pirate fan, but
Yeah.
I can say that because my whole entire childhood and into my adult life, they've been horrific. So I can be a I dealt with all of that. I can jump on the bandwagon whenever the heck I want to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, that's fine. And I've always been a home team hater just because I think it was a way of like
being contrarian.
Yeah, being contrarian, being like too cool for school. Like I'm not
Rebel,
going to root for Washington. I'm not going to root for Baltimore because you guys are, and I'm going to be a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
I don't know how my dad dealt with that. I would not have been able to as a dad. But yeah, so I'm actually looking at some Orioles memorabilia in my office, including a Coke bottle from the last time they won the World Series in 1983, folks.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I have some pirate stuff in here. I have a some sort of Pirates 1971 World Champions over here, and then I have a newspaper that I kept when the Pirates beat the Reds in the wild. Do you remember that wild card game when I think we've talked about on the show before? Maybe we haven't, but when Pittsburgh had the first wild card game in like first playoff game in literally like 2 decades, and it was against the Reds, and Pittsburgh fans have no idea how to handle a Pirate, like a baseball game. And so they go in acting like it's a football game, right? They're just going absolutely nuts. And then they start chanting Cueto, Johnny Cueto's name. They're going Cueto, and Cueto drops the ball on the pitcher's mound. And the very next pitch he throws, and Russell Martin hits a home run to left field.
Really?
I've never seen, the Pirates won 2-1. I'd never seen a crowd impact a game more in my entire life. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah, like we literally got rattled, and it wasn't like, oh, the next at bat. It was the literal next pitch.
I gotta look this up. That's why the Yinzers are just animals, man.
It's one of my favorite. It's got to be a top 3 favorite moment of my sports fandom life.
Really,
is that moment? Oh, it was incredible. And I was living in Cincinnati at the time, which made it even better because they beat the Reds. But yeah, man. I mean, it was the Cueto chant and then him dropping it. It was great. Next question is from @Tummage. It says, what is Denny more sick of? Taylor Swift videos or swaggy Mike McDaniel's videos?
I like the swaggy Mike McDaniel videos.
Did you tweet about the swaggy Mike McDaniel's videos or something?
No, I did. I think I may have posted about people like enjoying the Dolphins losing to be like, see, the math doesn't work. You gotta know ball. You gotta know the game. You gotta establish the run with Derrick Henry to win.
Right.
So, but I look, the Taylor Swift thing. I find it weird that guys are getting so worked up about it. Like,
me too.
The camera went to Taylor Swift like 10 times during the Jets Chiefs game, which who cares? And
it was even. I mean, it wasn't over the top at all.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I thought it was perfectly within reason. I think NBC did a great job handling that. That's what I say.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, like the people are getting upset that the NFL has like on their like Instagram account and stuff, they have like Taylor Swift as their like background image and stuff like that. It's like, guys, Taylor Swift is bigger than the NFL.
Yes.
Like this is literally marketing. Like this is what you do to market, is that you embrace the biggest superstar on planet Earth, like being invested in your game.
Right.
Why not take advantage of that?
That's right. Yeah.
No,
I mean, as a profit-seeking corporation, the NFL is going to do just that. And if you don't like that, then you hate capitalism. And I don't know what to tell you about that.
And maybe at the end of the day, they're going to get new audience and new people involved, and that's a good thing for all of us.
They do actually. The New York Times sent a reporter to Manhattan on Sunday night. I know how this goes because I've worked at a few newspapers. So they told some Cub reporter, they said, listen, go downtown, check out the bars, find a Swiftie and interview them and about the game. So this reporter found a Swiftie with a notebook and a pen taking notes on the game. She's grinding the film.
Which is crazy, right? Like take a step back and realize the impact that Taylor Swift is having on so many people. Like it's crazy to me that people are investing in the NFL simply because Taylor Swift is going to these games is dating one of the players.
I think I made this joke, but it's kind of not a joke anymore. I'm afraid I'm being replaced by a Swiftie within the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're going to be better than us for sure. We actually got a question about that. Yeah, Neil Dutton said, "What will be the ultimate tipping point when we acknowledge Swifties have taken complete control of the game? Will it be when they start referring to their models, or when they start using phrases like sack-based floor? We need to be ready for the end of our time."
I think so. I mean, we are literally 10 days away from Swifties talking about sack rate over expected.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I really do think that.
I do want to be careful though, and this has kind of been frustrating me. Maybe this is like a really woke thing to say, Denny, but I do think that there's this overlap being made and that's why I try to be careful whenever I'm saying things like the Swift fan, the Taylor Swifties or the Swifties who do not like football, right? Like we can't assume that every Taylor Swift fan doesn't like football.
No, it's a bad assumption.
It's a bad assumption because there's so many of them, right?
I mean, we know Cooter Doodle online, and she is a huge Swift fan and also a huge football fan and a football knower. So we know a person whose interests overlap. Yeah. So I do try to be careful with that. But of course it's like the super alpha high T guys who are like, no, these people are invading my game. This is the last.
Right. Like get out of here with that. I'm not saying that as in like anyone's been wrong or anything. Like I'm just saying like I do try to like recognize that there is overlap between people who are Swifties and people who like football, like in the first place, before all this happened.
Right? You are correct about that.
Yeah. Next question. This is from @Diego24FPS. This weekend, children loved watching NFL games in the Toy Story animation theme. What would the NFL have to do to get Denny to actually watch one game? Someone else asked what other movie they could have done that with. This is from @KDBanks01. Rather than Toy Story, what would have been a better movie to use to help kids get into football? I vote John Wick, is what he said.
Yeah, I think that would do. I think The Shining maybe would be good.
Yeah. Look, did you watch the Toy Story thing at all?
I watched about a minute. So actually, me and Melissa were watching it for just a minute. The kids were not home. They actually went. They were hanging out with their cousins on Sunday morning. Right? They had a sleepover. So I said, "Hey, you got to see this." I turned it on. We watched for a minute, and then she looks at me. She's like, "I think that's enough." I said, "Yeah, I think that's enough too." It was not. I don't know. I didn't get it particularly. I didn't. But it's not for me. It's for kids. So.
Right. I thought at least like Toy Story and like Disney in general and like all their animation stuff, there's so much creativity. Like, having like Slinky be the first down marker and stuff and like doing things. It's just like these people's brains are insanely creative to come up with these things.
I did like this. They had the blocks for the field goal posts. Did you see that?
Yes.
That was good. That was good.
Very good.
Yeah, the creativity for in these people's brains were pretty outstanding. Yeah.
All right, we have one more question that I'm going to get to because then we got to get out of here. This is from @Joshua Kunst or Knust. Joshua Nust. There's a K in the beginning. Screw your KN names. Nust.
Sorry,
Josh. It's hard. Sorry, Josh. I don't really mean that. My last name is just as stupid. What is the goat soup?
Is it goat head soup like the Rolling Stones album? I don't know. This caught me off guard. Do you have one?
I mean, do you consider like pho or pho, however you want to say it, as soup? Because that would be my pick. Would be Vietnamese there.
That is very good. That is very good.
Just pour some of that sriracha in there. Go to work. Let your sinuses drain a little bit.
Listen, as long as there's chicken in the soup, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of only liquid soup. You need chunks in your soup.
Yes, stop with that. No, nobody. Do not tell me that you can eat tomato soup and be like, I'm full now.
Yeah, get out of here.
I'm sorry. You
tomato soup is no
bowls.
Yeah, it's no different than going to a pop machine, soda machine, and getting something out of there and drinking it. It's the same exact thing. It's a milkshake. Is tomato soup.
Just stop that. That's like insulting. I'm like, no. It's just like, I don't know. How do you feel? Okay, we're gonna get off topic here. Well, how do you feel about pasta just like without meat or anything? Because for me, there's literally no amount of pasta that I can eat that can make me full.
Yeah, I don't think so either for me. Yeah. I mean, you need protein and substance to any dish like that. Yeah.
I don't particularly love pasta, but I ate some at my mother-in-law's house the other day, and it was very good, and I enjoyed it. I ate a ton of it, JJ, a ton of it, which I probably shouldn't be doing at 40, but I did it anyway. And I was starving 3 hours later. I'm talking like I was like desperate for food 3 hours later.
Yeah, it does nothing for you. You need protein. You need to not just it's pasta, it's soup. There's all kinds of foods. Like you need to have something in there. People are saying tomato soup is a smoothie. I agree. Someone said, "Can we talk fantasy football?" No, this is your first time. Someone says you're supposed to eat with grilled cheese, though. Okay, that's different. If you want to go the grilled cheese tomato soup route, totally different. Tomato soup on its own, one of the most horrendous inventions of all time.
Oh yeah, no, just awful.
Someone said tomato soup is an acid bath for your tongue. That's the other thing. I don't even eat it anymore because it just makes my body hurt after eating it.
Yeah, Diego Lopez said, acid bath for your tongue, which of course was the name of my band in high school, Acid Bath.
Someone said wedding soup is the only answer as a yinzer, which is not wrong. Wedding soup is very good.
What the hell is wedding soup?
Google wedding soup. I'm not going to go through this. Is like little meatballs in it.
You're not going to tell me?
You got some like spinach in it. And then instead of like the noodles being like, you got little ball noodles, like the little balls instead of like the true. It's very good. Wedding soup is good.
It's called an Italian wedding soup. I'm sorry for your anti-Italian bias, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, in Pittsburgh, we, everything's Polish in Pittsburgh.
You play Super Mario, yet you didn't call it Italian wedding soup. That's interesting.
Very, very good point. All right, Denny, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, I am at CD Carter on the X platform and on Threads, and I'm on Blue Sky, folks. I am really trying. I'm going to try to get my co-host on Blue Sky eventually. And I don't know if he's ever going to go for it, but I am on Blue Sky. I'm posting all the time.
I'm technically on there. I do have an account on there, but I don't. Yeah, I don't do anything on there. Oh. I have, Denny. There's too much. I'll just figure it out whenever people really go. I'm doing Instagram and stuff, Late Round FF, and I'm making graphics for that. That's fun. But I'll wait until there's a true movement before I really waste my time.
But you can make it. Wait. What's your name on Blue Sky?
It's got to be Late Round QB.
I'm not seeing it, folks. We'll have to look into that.
All right. Well, whatever. Someone wants to take it, they can take it. I'm pretty sure I do have a Blue Sky account, though. I just haven't posted anything.
All right.
Anyway, I'm on Twitter at Late Round QB, Instagram account Late Round FF. Denny, let's go get some milkshakes.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to Living the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out
LateRound.com and NBC Sports Edge.
Hope you come back soon as we share about the